Thanks for joining us today for Conductor's Humans of Marketing series, where we talk to different marketers from industries around the world. Today we're talking to Director of Marketing of Unisys, Linda Welch. I like to start kind of at the beginning for this series, which is just how did you get started in marketing? Can you take us through your career path and just how did that begin and how did you proceed from there?
Sure. So actually it wasn't something I started out with. I graduated high school, college, and in college I was doing computer science, mathematics. At that time, computer science was just, we didn't have computers in high school. It was like my first exposure to doing computers in college.
Like that one?
Yeah, not quite that one, a little bit newer than that, but quite big like that. And I took mostly those kind of courses, and I was working in the computer sciences department as a work study type program, and we had spare equipment similar to that. As part of that, and I was using their office automation system. And towards my end of my college career, a Sperry rep came in and was talking to the director and gave him my resume. And a couple months later, I graduated and we moved down here for a job. But I started out computer programming. I'm building office automation systems, and I think through that you see the lens of the person that's in front of that screen that you're building things for. I did that for a good number of years and then moved into doing kind of e-commerce things, managing people. So I probably on the technology side was half my career. Mm-hmm. And then I got exposure to move to our services side. So I ran a group of team that was actually building our solutions and services. Did that for a number of years, and then I had an opportunity to move into marketing to do big deal support. And I'm like, I never did marketing.
Not you.
I was like, I don't. He goes, yeah, but you know our technology side, our services, our products. We need to be able to explain that to people through marketing. And we were doing trying to win just one company as our client, and put a whole gang force of effort into having special meetings and different things like that. So that was my exposure into marketing initially. I'm like, yeah, I could do this. And then kind of moved into other roles, field marketing, doing events, and now really just branching out into other parts of it. So it's been a journey.
It does sound like a journey. It's funny because I came into marketing in a similar way, right? Like I was a subject matter expert in something and then kind of made the transition as that expert because they needed somebody to do digital marketing. So I always have a soft spot for anybody that also followed a similar career path. But I would love to hear a little bit more about sort of in your day-to-day, what inspires you? What kind of keeps you excited about marketing, keeps you excited about Unisys and what you're doing here, and kind of keeps you and your team pumped up?
I think because there's always something new. We continue to evolve our products and solutions, and we have to create something for that. We have great leadership, and our CEO always comes up, we need this or we need that, and we scratch our heads a little bit. So it's not boring. Even though I have certain things that I'm responsible for, there's other things that'll come up. I have the opportunity to go events a couple times a year, and really it's not boring, I think, is the biggest thing, and it doesn't stop changing, and there's new things to learn, so it keeps me happy.
Yeah, well, and it sounds like Unisys is sort of an organization where there's a lot of room to grow and try new things because the organization itself and your products are changing, and digital marketing itself, right?
Sure.
It never stops, as I know only too well. I would love to hear a little bit about a couple of things. So kind of taking me on a journey from your sort of past to present to future in a little bit more specific way. Talk to me about something sort of in your marketing career. And your career isn't just marketing, so it can be beyond that as well, that you are most proud of that you've accomplished as you look back.
Well, I think more recently is just learning about SEO. That's kind of currently what I'm doing, but I didn't know what that was. There are a couple people before me had started it, and they left, and there was a gap, and we went a year without doing anything, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, Linda, why don't you learn SEO? I'm like, what's that? So it was a little bit scary at the beginning, and a couple books flopped in front of me. Here, go read about this.
Well, I feel like that's a big vote of confidence, though, right? Like if you're the person they trust, you're like, you can probably, you're smart.
You can do this. You can do
this.
And that's been 2 years too of going through that. We leveraged an outside agency to kind of kickstart us, which was extremely helpful. So I didn't feel like I was alone by myself, set up to fail type of thing. And then, moved into this year using Conductor, which has been the next biggest step, just because of the tool set, really. A combination of having somebody to talk to and work with through, plus having a tool set behind it. Tons of learning that you can take on your own to get to it, and the support of the team around me. It's not just me, and then I have to educate everybody else. So that that's the constant challenge to get other people to know how to write things. So I tend to review everything and fix it, but that's how we learn.
Sure, and I think we saw a little piece today of you explaining some things to your team, and I think that I don't know, I can see you in that sort of educator evangelist role really easily, which is very, very cool for us, because that's sort of what we do at a large scale, right? Is teach people about what SEO is and how to do it. And I would love to hear a little bit more about that sort of process of education and evangelism, like both on your team and sort of in your organization. How do you kind of spread the word about the data that you're using, the things you're learning, and what your team is working on and implementing?
Sure. I think we started out with, guides, creating a document, getting the group together, having a virtual meeting, walking through various things, the basics, what's a keyword, where do we put them, and that type of thing, and providing that. But everybody's jobs are busy, and it gets, put to the side, and they forget about it. So it's a continual process for me as well. And then as I learn things, and getting management, they're managers, because we're working with individuals that are developing our products and solutions. And they tend to start to write the content that they would want to use, and they may use an outside vendor. So you even have other people that don't necessarily, here's the keyword list to use,
sure.
And they change. So it's continual. I mean, it's like you can't get frustrated and stop. We set up another call or meeting, or I find it actually individual, one-on-one, just working with somebody for a particular section of the our content, what's, what are you doing, what's coming that's new, and how can I help? And it's reiterating, I think, until they kind of get it as well. And then they're asking me, versus not asking at all.
Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, and it's that question, how can I help, right?
Sure.
What are you working on? What are you doing? Sort of listening to those needs and figuring out what language and what story you can tell that will actually help people, as opposed to one size fits all, right? Like, this is what you should be doing, right? Kind of that angle.
And giving examples, like, here, are you looking at what your competitors are doing? What else is out there? What are other ways to do this versus writing 3 paragraphs of text? Let's add some visuals, let's put some other pop-up things in there, something that's going to keep the person on the page versus getting off the page after 2 seconds of looking at it. So it's a combination of what they're reading, but it's also the visuality of everything being there. And
I think that's actually like a very mature way to look at SEO, right? It's not just getting people, like, get that traffic to the page, who cares what's on it, right? As long as people get there. It's also the UX side, right? Like making sure that experience is engaging and interesting, and kind of approaching it from that holistic point of view, I think, is really important.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit. So you talked about your, working with like product development teams. What other like external teams do you interface with? Do you kind of bring some of this search knowledge to?
Well, primarily it's been our product and solutions teams, but also, we try to get their management to understand. I mean, our chief marketing officer is all over it, and I think the best story that we have is last year we had started quarterly meetings. I have quarterly meetings, and we used another vendor to develop the content, and we would look at it, tweak it, and we would present to her, and okay, well, went this better, that better, and then the quarter goes by, and we go do the same thing. And so when we got Conductor, we started building a workspace for her. A workspace, for those that don't know, is it's really creating a visual type of, obviously it could be in a PDF file, but if we're doing it online, it's something that's very interactive where you could create and put any pieces of content that you want, what the keywords are doing, how you're doing with your competitors. So we knew what she was looking for, and we built a custom workspace.
Tell that story.
Yeah, space for her. And so we did our first quarterly one in April, and we walked through it, and at the end of it, I mean, she had some questions, things she'd want to change, which is good. And we said, well, when would you like to have another quarterly meeting? And she said, no. Just send me the work, make sure I'm getting the workspaces, every month, and I'll let you know if I have any questions. And that was like, yes, we it was something that was, very, I thought an accomplishment. Not only saved time for us, but it saves time in her busy schedule as well.
Yeah. To
know that there's something she could, anytime she wants to, she can go get her questions answered by looking at the rankings or how we're doing. And so that was, I think, because we always were, striving for that next quarter. What is it going to be? What are we looking at? We've got to get the different slides. And, finding that right medium that I think works for both of us.
Yeah, and that can be anxiety-inducing, right? Like getting over that hill and getting that buy-in, I think is such a great feeling of relief, first of all, but also, means that you can work on other things, right? Like you can take that time and sort of put it toward the next project. I'd love to know, kind of going into the present, what are you working on right now or working on in the near future that you're most excited about, that you're kind of like, this project is going to be something I can really sink my teeth into?
I don't know if I'm excited about it. I'm actually tackling the backlinks that we have.
Ooh, that's a big project.
We're close to that little toxic level, so going through and looking at the different backlinks and then disavowing them or whatever, and it's been a long process. We're using a tool to do that, but I'm kind of waiting and getting them all together so we can send them off to Google and have them disavow them and get some better rankings for really getting the bad links out of coming to our site, which will help us in the long run from where we're doing from an external point of view of people looking at how good our site is.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because those authority factors that are sort of old school Google, right? Like backlinks, people think of them that way, but they matter, right? They do.
It's amazing what you find if you go look for it.
It can be a little bit of a graveyard, the little haunted.
Yes.
Maybe. And in terms of the wins we were talking about, so you talked about that quarterly meeting that now is done in like workspace form. Are there other avenues in like how you share wins, like sort of up the chain or with the company, with a specific piece of content or campaign has performed particularly well? How do you let people know about sort of what you've accomplished so far?
A lot of it is just communication amongst the group, but from broadening it out from a full marketing perspective, we have a great internal communications group. They do news you can use every week. So if we put out new content, I'm also responsible for a corporate presentation, our one slick that people use externally. So some of the key corporate things I'm responsible. Anytime I change them, we tell people to go, go download this again because there's new content that has changed there. So we do that. We use Yammer, a lot of some of the other internal social ways to communicate because email obviously is the go-to, but when we get tons of email, we try to cover all bases and they get it various ways. Hopefully one will stick to know what else is going on.
Well, that's multi-channel marketing internally and externally. That's a good point. And I think that, finding everybody is willing to receive information differently. So being able to find that like full breadth of how to touch people, I think is really important to getting the message across. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about external to your everyday. So we've met your wonderful son. I know you're expecting a granddaughter. Is that right?
Yes.
That's very exciting.
First grandchild.
What are some things you do outside of work, outside of marketing, that make you a better marketer?
Wow, that's good. I think I still try to. I read a lot. But I've also, when I go home, that's things I do. I still get on the internet, I still search, I still look at what other people are doing, and then getting involved with other organizations where may have to do marketing-oriented things for a different reason.
Yeah.
I think it's just moving and doing things outside of what you do for a company gives a different perspective.
Sure. I actually think it's interesting at like conventions, like you sort of were talking about, like the community aspects. Sometimes talking to people outside of your, your specific, like we're B2B, so we're thinking about like what do SaaS companies do? But that's not always actually the most interesting things to kind of input into our thinking. What are some things you look to or read or listen to? Are there any like specific thought leaders or publications or even like social accounts or books that you would recommend?
I can't think of any.
No worries. Essentially, when people ask me a question like that, when you ask me my favorite song, my mind goes blank and I can think of nothing that I've ever seen, read, or heard in my entire life. Yeah. So no worries on that. But if you think of one.
I'll answer now.
Okay.
You want to go ask the question again, or do we do that?
No, we can cut it. That's fine.
Well, I actually leverage both Conductor and SEMrush is another tool.
Mm-hmm.
I find that they have different people that do workshops or sessions or training that I can get to when I have time to get to it. So a lot of times I'll get an email just because I can't make it on Tuesday. I sign up and it's recorded and I can go back to it. So not only their specialists that go and talk about particular topics that may be of interest, but there's a wealth of knowledge just in their learning community that's available, on touch, on site when I want to, and that's been very helpful. Because I can always pick up the phone and call people, but sometimes I like to delve in and learn what I can myself, so I educate myself a little bit more before I ask them questions.
SEMrush has a lot of great content, and they have some fun content too, like fun gamified content that we've looked at a couple times that, they're a partner of ours. But yeah, they have some really great stuff on their site. And a lot of nice depth in their webinars and different, they do a Twitter chat, I think, as well. Very cool. Thank you. Talk to me about what tips you would give to keep people inspired. So that could mean either like things that you do for your team to kind of keep them feeling like as good as you're feeling, or better even, or just something that you would tell like marketer to marketer, like these are the things that you would recommend to kind of keep them feeling motivated.
I think you need to go and look for different things yourself, right? I mean, I think we focus on what we're doing at work, and sometimes we go home and that's the last thing. You don't want to pick up anything to do anything more, but either through reading or I like looking at other people's websites, our competitors or other companies that I like Conductor or other ones that I think are, Microsoft, pick one. They're out there that stand as good companies, and to see what they're doing. Because we're always trying to refresh our content, refresh our look and feel. And we can learn from each other. Always, colleagues and stuff also have. Some people are never asked, right? It doesn't hurt to ask people what they think, because, geez, no one ever asked me what I thought. Well, and they'll tell you.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone just getting started in marketing? So I know you kind of came through, the product development and technical side, and kind of came into marketing, but. What would you tell somebody just like at the beginning of their career who wants to go into it?
I think they always have to look at who is receiving whatever they're doing. Visually or reading or whatever, I think sometimes you can get caught up in what works for you, but you got to realize there's people that look at content, they want to see content, they want to hear content, so all your senses have to be engaged, I think, for people to really pull down to the next page, turn it over, or come back tomorrow and read it again. It has to be interesting and something that really will, connect with them.
Preach. That was great. I couldn't have said it better myself, and I would have probably taken 20 to 40 more words to do it. But I will say that almost goes back to what you were saying at the beginning as a computer programmer.
Yeah.
When you were talking about think about the people in front of the screen, right? We phrase it a lot as people behind the screen.
Sure.
But there's human beings, right, doing it. And I think that some of the strangest thing is when you're like, would you want to be reading this? Would you think this is like a good experience? And kind of putting yourself in that position and always putting those people first, right? Like those customers, that audience, right? How are they kind of receiving this and how is it helping them? I think is such an important kind of part of the marketing mindset that we want to have.
I mean, I think you kind of want to stay away from getting, I'm not going to ask Joe or Sally or whatever what it is. I think this is pretty good, but if you need those other opinions, those other eyes on it, for all the reasons we just talked about. So you need to push yourself to do that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think if there's any, there's kind of two through lines through this whole conversation. One of them is the people, right, thinking about the full experience for people taking this in. And the second is learning. So kind of transitioning to future now. What is something you're working on in terms of like developing a new skill, learning something new? What's something that you are concentrated on to kind of get yourself to the next level?
Well, I think it's the Conductor tool itself. I went through and took the first 2 tests this year, so I'm certified at that level, but there's parts of it that I still haven't really had time to go learn or do.
It's a big tool.
It's a big tool, unfortunately, but there's a lot of depth there. And so that would be really kind of where I'd like to get to, over the next year, is continue to learn what I don't know still about it. So I even feel more capable of, teaching the other folks on our team.
That's great. Well, we love to hear that personally, despite the fact that we are, completely objective in all ways. But there's a lot to learn there. I could still learn more about Conductor as a tool, frankly.
And you're not stopping. You're putting out new releases.
I know. It always keeps going. That's the digital marketing. It's a Unisys way too.
That's right. That's right.
So let's talk about Unisys a little bit more. What makes it a special place to work as a marketer, or just like as a human being, as we are?
It's really the people. I mean, you've met some of them today.
They were so great.
We really are a great organization. We moved into this kind of renovated area upstairs. The walls are down. We can see each other, and I think a lot of people were apprehensive of moving to, we're not going to be able to hear anything, but they've, in combination with that, there are a lot of spaces where you can go take a phone call. And I think even in our interim, we were in an interim place, we were all in a big room together, and that was like an experience. And I thought, this is even going to be worse, but actually it's actually so much better. And being able to, I think we collaborate more, and you kind of may overhear certain things that you wouldn't have heard of before, and you may have an opinion, or you could help out, or maybe they could help you. So I think it brings the team closer together, or the more aligned. They know what everybody else is doing versus being tunneled into their own little world. And that's what we're there for. We want to be really a team and help each other out. So.
Well, it's not every team that when you tell them to come down for a picture, I think like 15 people.
I'm thinking I'm going to get one or two,
and they were willing to move from location to location. That's a great team.
That's
You're building something exciting. So I guess kind of looking a little bit at the kind of going outside of work a little bit. So we've talked a little bit about what you do outside to make yourself a better marketer. What is one song that you listen to right now? And it can be a song, an album, an artist. We're not picky. But we are going to try to put a playlist together for people later about what the greatest marketers out there are listening to. That gets you inspired, pumped, ready to go. What do you have on repeat right now?
Right now I like Maren Morris's album, the Girl. I mean, but there's one song called The Bones that's in there. It's all kind of about the foundation of a relationship and those type of things. I like that, but the whole album is her Girl album is great. And I've heard her songs over a couple of years, but all of a sudden I just downloaded, and that's on my repeat. I'm playing it all on the way to work.
You can't get away from. We're like, I could listen to something else, but all I want is this.
Yeah, that'll last a couple of weeks, and I'll move on to something else. But that's what I'm listening to right now.
Fantastic. And then when we are, so I know I'm going to ask you to Google one anyway, and you can just refuse it. We'll go on. But if you think of something interesting you Google, we will try it. Tell me a little bit about your kind of day-to-day routine. So you wake up in the morning, and I feel like I was about to start singing a song when I said that. So you wake up in the morning, what happens, and just kind of walk us through a day in the life. Because that's my favorite Beatles song, as we discussed.
Day in life. Well, with my husband, our alarms go off at 5:30, so it's a we go back and forth, hitting it a little bit longer, but we're usually up pretty early. He gets out faster to work than I do. I have about a 10-mile drive, so it's only a 20-mile drive into work. I definitely just stop at Wawa to get a coffee. I make my own little combo.
I'm from Maryland, so I'm sad. I don't have Wawa in New York. I miss Wawa.
Mostly decaf, a little bit of hazelnut, some cream, whatever, cinnamon. That's my kickstart for the morning.
Very
and
nice.
Come in, usually again, read, check your email, that type of thing, depending on whether I have a lot of meetings or not. One thing that we try to do in nice weather, some of the people on our team go out for a walk, just like to break the day up, for a half hour, and we end up talking about work or personal lives. But I think that again brings the team together as well by doing that. And sometimes we do things outside of work, but I think we're all close knit together.
Yeah.
That we're all there to help each other out during the week.
That's great. I love getting out of the office, like even for a couple minutes. For us, so walking around the
Yeah.
block, right? Like even that can be just like a nice way to remember that there's a world outside a little bit and think about things in a new way, right? We've talked about like thinking about things in a new perspective. I think that's really important. One thing that we've been focused on, and part of the reason we're launching this series, obviously we also have an annual conference, we have different events that we do, but is the idea of community and bringing marketers from all different backgrounds, all different seniority levels, different life experiences together so that they can learn from each other, so that they can talk and listen and connect. I would love to hear about what you would look for in your ideal marketing community. What would you be getting from that? What would you be giving? What would that feel like to you?
I definitely would want a diverse community, just because everybody brings something to the party. So not only from the basic things, but just experts in different areas. And so then you have that combination of learning from each other person, and then people coming to you, helping to expand, what you know, and help the group as a whole altogether. I think that's part of it. I think our community, as far as doing things after work, having great management and really looking at what the people are doing, acknowledge them, supporting them, when things aren't going well. That makes, I think we have that here, and that, you saw our team, they're a great team to work with.
Yeah, they seem like a great team. Thank you, that's very helpful. And then I'm going to get to that question, and I'll ask it more like this. What's something interesting you've Googled lately?
I can't answer it, I don't know. Vacations. We were looking at, we just did a long weekend with our family up in the Poconos, but now I gotta think about the next one. I'm thinking Aruba, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, where else are you thinking? What locations have you been Googling?
Well, the big question is, what's going to work for everybody,
right.
And that type of thing. Obviously, Aruba's on my bucket list of places to go, but it is kind of far to get everybody to fly there, and that type of thing. I think that's on the top of the list.
Yeah, very cool. I would love to. I've never been to Aruba either. I did get invited by a friend of mine once, and then I couldn't go. So I'm upset about it even now, thinking about it. But well, I hope you have an excellent time in Aruba, and thank you so much for talking to us, Julie. Is there anything that we missed or that you want to? I think I got to everything. Is there anything else you'd like to add, that something we haven't touched on, or something you'd like us to know, or you'd like the world of marketers to know?
Not that I can think of. I think I'm good.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for talking to me, and thank you for kind of bringing your team together for us. This has been really great, and I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you. You seem like a great team. Thank you. That's very helpful. And then I'm going to get to that question, and I'll ask it more like this. What's something interesting you've Googled lately?
I can't answer it. I don't know. Vacations. I mean, we were looking at. We just did a long weekend with our family up in the Poconos, but now I gotta think about the next one. You know, I'm thinking Aruba. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. Where else are you thinking? What locations have you been Googling?
Well, the big question is, you know, what's going to work for everybody,
Right.
and that type of thing. Obviously, Aruba's on my bucket list of places to go, but it is kind of far to get everybody to fly there and that type of thing. I think that's on the top of the list.
Yeah, very cool. I would love to. I've never been to Aruba either. I did get invited by a friend of mine once, and then I couldn't go. So I'm upset about it even now, thinking about it. But well, I hope you have an excellent time in Aruba, and thank you so much for talking to us, Julie. Is there anything that we missed or that you want to? I think I got to everything. Is there anything else you'd like to add that something we haven't touched on, or something you'd like us to know, or you'd like the world of marketers to know?
Not that I can think of. I think I'm good.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for talking to me, and thank you for kind of bringing your team together for us. This has been really great, and I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you.